name some of the black box test design techniques.
Yes, boundary value analysis, then partitioning, equivalence class partitioning, error guessing, state transition, and decision table techniques.
Right.
These all are the black box design techniques.
Excellent. Yeah. And what exactly do you understand by black box testing? Now you have explained about black box test design technique. What exactly is black box testing?
Black box testing means we test the feature or the functionality of an application. That is what the black box design technique. While doing the black box design technique, the tester they don't have the knowledge of the internal code structure path. Means overall they don't have the any programming knowledge. They just check the main functionalities working fine or not. Let's take the simple example, that is the login page. Suppose I have an application and the one of the module is the login page. So as a tester, as a black box design testing, I will test only the functionality of an application. I will not go through and the search for the what are the codings we have done and the internal path and the structure. Mainly focus is on the functionality. That is what the black box design techniques.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
black box testing.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. So you are not aware about the internal as a black box testing. You are not aware of the internal structure, and you are not actually interacting with the code and testing it. So any functionality you are testing for which you are not aware of the internal working of the code, you are just providing the input and verifying the output is basically a black box. So black box in general, just consider it a black box, right? So absolutely correct answer. Yeah. So what do you understand by test coverage?
Test coverage. We write the test cases in a such order that we should cover all the test coverage. Means for writing the test cases, there are some design techniques are there. You have to follow that design techniques, and using the design techniques, you will get the 100% full test coverage. Means you will not miss any functionality, any requirement. So that is what the test coverage is.
Right. So you need to do you want to add any more points, or should I just provide a feedback on this?
No, sir, I know that much only about test coverage.
Okay. Yeah. So you are correct, but you are not able to like rephrase things properly. You know stuff. I can understand from your answer. So in order to rephrase or basically phrase this answer, you can simply say a coverage. I mean, test coverage. There is a word coverage, right? In general, if you understand the coverage meaning
Covering
of the coverage,
all the scenarios.
Yeah. So basically, when we talk about test coverage, it's nothing but what your test cases are covering in terms of requirements. So the source of truth of any software is basically a requirement document, right? Or the set of requirements. So when we talk about test coverage, you write your test cases, and then whether those test cases or what percentage of or what percentage of requirement is being covered by the test cases that you have designed or developed, right? So you have explained correctly that there are test design techniques that you use, and you ensure that you write the set of test cases which cover the requirement, and there is nothing missed as such in terms of, say, for example, there are 10 requirements and you do not have test cases for 2 of the requirements. So that test coverage ensures that your requirements are being covered properly. Right? Yeah. Okay. So basically, if we talk about, say, what exactly test coverage does for you, can you explain a little bit? So what does it help you to find out?
It allows you to find out the defects using this test coverage. Means you can say the the defects can be a high priority defect or the most critical defect or blocker defect. If you cover the all the test scenarios or the test coverage.
Okay, so here test coverage will help you to identify the areas of requirements that are not covered, right, by your test cases. That's first of its benefit. So when I say what this test coverage will help you to do is, it will first help you to identify the requirements which have either less coverage, less number of test cases associated with it based on the importance of that requirement, or whether that requirement itself is not covered at all, right? So that's the first thing. Then it helps you to ensure that the requirement requirements are having proper coverage, and if there are less number of test cases, you add those. If there are some scenarios missing, you add those, right? So these are some of the benefits basically you can mention. So go through test coverage, and your answer is mostly correct, but try to phrase it in a more structured way, what exactly coverage is, and then what advantages it will bring, right? Because when somebody will ask what is test coverage, they might also ask what test coverage advantages are, or what are the pros and cons, something like that, right? So that
Okay,
might
sir.
come. Okay. All right. What is the difference between verification and validation?
Okay. Verification. In verification, we verify or you can say the review, the CRS, customer requirement specification, software requirement specification, high level design, low level design. We only do the verification part. Review part we done only in verification. But in the validation, what we do in validation, we test the functionality by executing the test cases. That is what the validation. First we perform the verification, then we go for the validation. Basically verification is an, you can say that it's a static testing, and the validation is a part of dynamic testing. And also the verification is done by the developer, and the validation is done by the tester.
Mhm. Okay, so verification can be, I mean, it's not specific to a particular role, especially if you are talking about, I mean, nowadays we follow Agile. So there will
Yes,
be blogs which you might have gone through that will say that this is specific to testers or this is specific to developers. Nowadays, that fine line is not anymore. So when we say
okay.
verification, it can still be, I mean, testers are very much involved, or the whole team is basically involved. And your answer, apart from the role thing, is absolutely correct. Your verification is more of a static, like reviews, static testing, like reviews, walkthroughs, inspections, where most of the team members are there or the relevant stakeholders are there, and you check that the documentation or the design is fulfilling the end user needs, and there are no inherent issues within the documentation and design itself. Okay. And then when
Yes,
you
sir.
talk about validation, you mentioned that yes, it's basically the dynamic testing where you execute the code and then you actually verify that the functionality is working as expected. So absolutely correct. And you can also add the answers there. These 2 points are very important when somebody asks verification, validation. So verification answers the question whether I am building the product right, and then validation answers, am I building the right product?
Right product.
Right. So just add these. So
Yes.
these 2 points, because these are very these will enhance your answer or improve your answer. Okay. But otherwise, your answer is correct in terms of verification and validation. Okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Now let's understand on the similar lines of verification and validation. From which particular development methodology this verification validation came through? So there are
From
different.
VNV model.
Right. Yes. Good. Good. Yeah. Cool. And why was V&V model introduced when there was a waterfall model already?
Because in waterfall model or in spiral model, there was the drawbacks. Like in waterfall model, once the requirement study and feasibility study is done, the requirements are freeze. You cannot change the requirement. You have to go through the whole cycle till the maintenance, and then only you can change the requirement. So that is what the drawback. But in the spiral also, the spiral is also the look like a waterfall. How? Because the spiral is a cycle. Now once after the every cycle, it is allowed to change the requirement. Within that cycle, you cannot change the requirement in the spiral. But so to remove this drawback, this VNV model comes into the picture.
Yeah, so they realized that the waterfall model, it's more of a sequential approach, and once you close one phase, only then you can enter next phase. So
Next.
there were lots and lots of drawbacks, and in order to address those drawbacks, they came up with V&V model, which is still had some drawbacks, and that's why we came to Agile later. So that's
Huh.
absolutely correct. Yeah. Why is static testing important?
Basically, in static testing, what we do the verification process. If we do verification process at the early stage itself, then basically it will the most defect we can catch at the early stage itself. Also, the verification basically at the early stage itself, we try to find out the customer requirements
Mhm.
because on the later stage it is very difficult to again change that module, but nowadays agile has come and agile changed that VNV model, so I think these two are the main
Yeah.
points.
Yes. Yes. So you have covered, like early defect detection and correction. So that's very good point. Then you have also covered reduced, cost, because the earlier you find the issues or defects,
Issues.
it's easier in terms of time and cost to fix that. So you have covered that. You can also add a couple of more points that it reduces the overall
Okay.
time span, right?
Time.
So if the development cycle you find a defect in the actual testing phase, then it has to, and if it is a design related defect, you have to go back and change the design,
Back and change the requirement.
right?
Yes.
So design and
Yes.
then
Yes.
development and then again. So it's a lot of work and it will delay the times. If it is a requirement related defect, then it's even worse. You have to go and fix it. You don't know how many modules you have to fix, right? So
Yes.
your understanding is absolutely correct. You just need to add as many points as you can, and I'm pretty sure with the level of, I think it's your teaching experience that has given you very good exposure around the systems and the
Yes.
processes. So that's really good. Okay.